Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to another session of this course on Islamic inheritance law. In this session, we shall be looking at basic maths which you need to know in order to calculate inheritance shares. Most people will know these mathematical methods already as they are taught as part of GCSE maths. In the Quran, the details of shares are mentioned in terms of fractions and ratios. In the traditional Arabian system of calculating inheritance shares, the Muslim jurists devised 7 rules which allow computation of shares without the use of fractions. These rules can be found in Al-Sirajiyah and in English on the website freeislamicwill.com. In these series of talks, we shall use modern mathematic techniques of dealing with fractions and ratios when calculating inheritance shares. A fraction generally denotes a part of a whole and consists of 2 rational numbers. It can also be thought of as the ratio of one number to another. The bottom number is called the denominator, and it tells us how many parts the whole has been divided into. The top number is called the numerator and tells us how many parts are being considered. For instance, 1/2 means the whole is divided into 2 parts and we take 1 part, and 2/3 means the whole is divided into 3 parts and we take 2 parts. A proper fraction is one in which the numerator is less than the denominator. The value of such a fraction is less than 1. An improper fraction is one in which the numerator is greater than the denominator and its value is greater than 1. Equivalent fractions are fractions where the denominator and numerator has been multiplied or divided by a common number. The actual value of the fractions does not change, even though the fractions look different. In this example, 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4, which is equivalent to 3/6, which is equivalent to 4/8. To add or subtract fractions, the denominators need to be the same. That is to say, fractions must have a common denominator. Fractions with a common denominator are called like fractions. Let's look at an example. We need to add 1/2 and 1/4. We convert 1/2 to its equivalent fraction 2/4 by multiplying both the numerator and denominator by the 2. Once the denominators are the same, we simply add or subtract the numerators, leaving the denominator unchanged. So 2/4 plus 1/4 equals 3/4. For the multiplication of fractions, we simply multiply the numerators of the fractions together to derive at the numerator, and we multiply the denominators together to derive at the denominator. It is sometimes useful to mentally substitute the multiplication sign with of to give the calculation some meaning in one's mind. For instance, 1/2 multiplied by 1/3 means 1/2 of 1/3. We multiply the denominators 2 and 3 to get 6, and we multiply the numerators 1 and 1 to get so. 1/2 multiplied by 1/3 is a 1/6. Let us now look at division of fractions. 2/3 divided by 4 means to divide 2/3 by 4. In this calculation, the fraction following the division sign is inverted, and the division sign converted to multiplication. So 2/3 divided by 4 becomes 2/3 multiplied by 1/4. We multiply the numerators. 2 multiplied by 1 is 2. The denominators 3 and 4 are multiplied together to get 12. So the answer is 2/12, which is reduced to 1/6. Ratios are very important to understand in Islamic inheritance law. Ratios are used in daily life. For instance, in cooking recipes, mixing paints, taxation. Speed is a ratio of distance to time, as is fuel consumption, a ratio of distance to volume of fuel. Simple ratios involving two numbers can be written as a fraction. For instance, ratio of 1 to 2 can be written as fraction, a half, and a ratio of 2 to 3 can be written as a fraction, 2/3. The first one is to divide 6 apples amongst Munir and Munira, so that Munir has twice the number of apples as Munira. We could also say divide 6 apples amongst Munir and Munira in a ratio of 2 to 1. Or we could say divide 6 apples amongst Munir and Munira so that the male gets the portion of 2 females. One way of calculating this problem is to add the numbers in the ratio 2 and 1, or assign 1 portion to Munira and 2 portions to Munir. So we add 2 and 1, which equals 3. So 3 parts are equivalent to 6 apples. Hence 1 part is 2 apples. Munira gets 1 part, which is equal to 2 apples. Munir gets 2 parts, which is equal to 4 apples. Let's look at another example. Divide 24 apples between Bilal, Omer, Rabia, and Nadia, so each boy gets twice as much as each girl. We assign each boy, Bilal and Omer, 2 portions each, and each of the girls, Rabia and Nadia, 1 portion each. The total number of portions is 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1, a total of 6. 6 portions is equivalent to 24 apples. 1 portion is 24 divided by 6, which is 4 apples. Each girl gets 1 portion, which is 4 apples. Each boy gets 2 portions, which is 8 apples. Total is therefore 4 plus 4 plus 8 plus 8, which is 24. Let's look at another example. Maryam has been given 1/8 of a cake. Khadija has been given 1/2 of the cake, and Munib 1/4 of the cake. Divide the remaining cake amongst Maryam, Khadija, and Munib according to their original portions. The ratio of Maryam to Khadija to Munib's share of the cake is 1/8 to 1/2 to 1/4. This is equivalent to 1/8 to 4/8 to 2/8, which gives a ratio of 1 to 4 to 2. The remaining cake is 1 minus 1/8 minus 1/2 minus 1/4 equals 8/8 minus 1/8 minus 4/8 minus 2/8 equals 1/8. We need to divide 1/8 amongst Maryam, Khadija, and Munib in a ratio of 1 to 4 to 2. Therefore, we divide the 1/8 into 7 parts, 1 plus 4 plus 2. We give 1 part to Maryam, 4 parts to Khadija, and 2 parts to Munib. Maryam gets 1/7 of 1/8, which is the same as 1/7 times 1/8, which equals 1/56. Khadija gets 4/7 of 1/8, which is the same as 4/7 times 1/8, which equals 4/56, and is equivalent to 1/14. Munib gets 2/7 of 1/8, which is the same as 2/7 times 1/8, which equals 2/56, and equivalent to 1/28. We add the fractional share for each individual. Maryam get 8/56 reduced to 1/7. Khadija gets 32/56 reduced to 4/7, and Munib gets 16/56 reduced to 2/7. The ratio of Maryam to Khadija to Munib is 1/7 to 4/7 to 2/7. There is a shortcut to solving this problem. The total sum of shares, 1/8 plus 1/2 plus 1/4, is 7/8. We now change the denominator, which is 8, to the sum of the numerators, which is 7, while the numerators remain the same. The end result is Maryam gets 1/8 becomes 1/7. Khadija 1/2, which is equivalent to 4/8, becomes 4/7. Munib 1/2, which is equivalent to 2/8, becomes 2/7. Here is a similar example. In this example, Amna has been given 1/8 of a cake, Aisha has been given 1/2 of the cake, and Zainab has been given 1/6 of the cake. Divide the remaining cake amongst Aisha and Zainab according to their original portions. The ratio of Aisha to Zainab's share of the cake is 1/2 to 1/6. This is equivalent to 3/6 to 1/6, which gives a ratio of 3 to 1. The remaining cake, after deducting Amna's, Aisha's, and Zainab's share, is 1 minus 1/8 minus 1/2 minus 1/6, which is equivalent to 24/24 minus 3/24 minus 12/24 minus 4/24 equals 5/24. We need to divide the remaining 5/24 between Aisha and Zainab in a ratio of 3 to 1. Therefore, we divide the 5/24 into 4 parts, 3 plus 1. We give 3 parts to Aisha and 1 part to Zainab. Aisha gets 3/4 of 5/24, means 3/4 times 5/24, which equals 15/96, reduced to 5/32. Zainab gets 1/4 of 5/24, means 1/4 times 5/24, which equals 5/96. We can see the final distribution in the table. Amna gets 4/32, gets 21/32, and Zainab gets 7/32. Again, let's look at the shortcut method. After Amna has been given her share of 1/8, we divide the remaining cake, which is 7/8, in a ratio of 3 to 1. Thus, Aisha's share is 3/4 of 7/8, equals 21/32. Zainab's share is 1/4 of 7/8, equals 7/32. This brings us to the end of this session. Insha'Allah, see you in the next one.